Championship Series, a series competed in by some of the most talented athletes in the world. American rider and former world champion Bernie Schreiber, number 15, now living in France, was on hand for the U.S. round.
Well, I think the basic object is to get through the sections without putting your feet down. It's a little bit basically like golf in a way. You know, you got a course, it's 3. Maybe you go around 3 times, but you'll have like 18 sections, which would be a little bit like the 18 holes in a golf course. And the idea is to get the minimum amount of points you can possible. The maximum you can get is a 5. That's what you don't want to get. And we're trying to get a 0 all the time, but it's the most difficult score to get.
The Mount Vernon course consisted of 17 observed sections that were each ridden 3 times. 7.5 hours were allotted to complete the course. The best riders devoted at least 2/3 of the allotted time to the first lap. Most of that time was spent walking the sections and studying the lines of their competitors. Boundaries are marked with ribbons. A rider can run over a ribbon but cannot go outside it. That's a failure. A penalty of 5 points. If a rider completes a section without putting his foot down or going outside the boundaries, he has cleaned the section and is awarded 0 points. If he dabs once, that's touching his foot to the ground, he is penalized 1 point. 2 dabs, 2 points, and 3 dabs, 3 points. After 3 dabs, as long as a rider maintains forward motion, he can dab as many times as he wants with no further penalty. If forward motion is lost, it's a failure and 5 points. The ability of the better riders to clean sections is unbelievable. The balancing acts to stay within the section boundaries defy description. However, despite those abilities, there are always obstacles that appear unconquerable. This section of rocks, for example, with a 4-foot vertical wall caused problems all day, until it was Eddie Lejeune's turn. Lejeune, a 3-time world champion from Belgium, made it look easy. At Mount Vernon, Lejeune finished 3rd. Second at the American round was rider number 3, Steve Saunders from England. Saunders and Lejeune are Honda teammates. Winning his first ever world championship event with 54 points was rider number 11, Jordi Terres from Spain. Terres, who rode a Beta, is a former bicycle trials champion that has been riding motorcycles for only 2 years. Although he does not understand English, he did understand the cheers of the spectators. And what did Jordi think of the enthusiastic American crowd?
I say that I think really that all was perfect.
Of the House of Representatives Committee on Government Operations. The recommendations to the CPSC call for a ban on the sale of 3-wheel ATVs and a recall of those currently in the hands of consumers. If it becomes a reality, you have to ask yourself, what's next? Catch up with all the latest motorcycle stories in the latest edition of Cycle.
Type of racing, the meaning's the same. The race is on. In this case, the race was round 5 of the AMA MOTORWORLD U.S. Endurance Series. 36 teams took the green for the 500K event, but as in the last event, it was a 1-team show. Number 2 Suzuki-mounted team Lockhart were again the class of the field, taking their 2nd straight win and 3rd victory in 5 events. By the time leadoff rider Lynn Miller handed over to team owner Wendell Phillips, the race was already in the bag. Lockhart's pit work was as meticulous as their preparation and riding. Second at Brainerd was Colbert Racing number 91, while GTU honors, bikes under 600 cc's, went to hometown heroes Team Tenacious out of Bloomington, Minnesota, aboard Yamaha number 176. Up front, Lockhart took the checkered flag for a convincing win. Once in the winner's circle, however, the Alabama-based team were not resting on their laurels.
Need to win 6 races this year out of 14 to actually wrap the championship up. With 3 wins and 1 second and a good strong second right now, we may miss Loudon and just concentrate on Daytona right now.
Team Lockhart did, in fact, skip the next round, and it may have been a good thing they did. The tight BRYAR Motorsports Park course took its toll on both rider and machine. This is not a marshmallow roast, but rather former National Endurance Champions Team Cycletech going up in flames. Anyone interested in a slightly used bike? Cheap? The Loudon round offered a little bit of everything. In the late stages of the race, number 15 New Haven Suzuki were dominating the proceedings. This team has been a consistent front runner all year, but with a handful of laps remaining, an unscheduled tire change handed the lead over to number 126, Swing Racing out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. New Haven Suzuki charged back into contention and was closing on the leaders when on the last lap, New Haven's Kevin Rinzel lost it and went down hard. Ironically, Swing Racing also went down on the final lap, but made it back to the start-finish line for the big upset win. Reporting for MotorWorld, this is
a Rick Johnson benefit. But in round 4 of the 1986 championship season at Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, a few surprises were in store for Rick Johnson. The first surprise came at the start of the first 250 moto when defending champion Jeff Ward from Mission Viejo, California, got the hole shot. Johnson, who was right on Ward's rear wheel, got another surprise when Honda teammate Johnny O'Mara and Billy Lyles on the green Kawasaki pushed Johnson back to 4th. By the end of the second lap, Ward had opened a huge lead over the rest of the field. Danny Storbeck, meanwhile, was charging through the pack and had moved to 2nd with Johnson following in 3rd. But then Johnson went to the inside of Storbeck and blasted by the San Antonio native. On the next corner, the Yamaha rider, apparently not impressed with Johnson's credentials, returned the favor and regained the number 2 position. Johnson eventually got by Storbeck for good and set out after Ward. Ward, though, with a clear track, appeared uncatchable. But Johnson kept charging, and on the last lap was in striking distance. The 30-minute moto turned into a sprint to the finish. Ward got there first to take a wire-to-wire win, while Johnson served notice that the next moto would be different. For Ward, it was easily his best ride of the season.
This year, I've just been getting bad starts, and I get in the pace of the guys back there and just screws up my rhythm, and I just can't get going. The leaders get going, and this time I got out front, and boy, it felt good to be out there.
Ward was again out there in moto number 2, but not out far enough. Ahead of him was Johnson. Ward stayed in contention right up to the checkered flag, but the moto and the overall win, his 4th in a row, went to Rick Johnson. In 125 action, Team Honda's Mickey Diamond became the 4th different overall winner in as many 125 nationals. In the first moto, Diamond finished 2nd behind Suzuki's Eric Kehoe. The second moto, though, was all Mickey Diamond. The Mount Morris win was the first national win in the career of the Yorba Linda, California native. A win he'll cherish for a long time to come. Next up was Lakewood, Colorado, and the Coors-sponsored final race of the 250 Championship Series. A finish of 12th or better in the first moto would give Johnson the title. He could do that in his sleep, but that's not the way Rick Johnson rides. He took the early lead in the moto and rode as hard as he could to the end. Then, with both arms raised in victory, Johnson rolled over the finish line jump to claim the 250 National Championship.
I didn't want to lose. I guess I'm a little bit greedy. I don't want to let no one win, even though it would be the wise thing to do is just ride around and come and say 5th in the first moto and clinch the championship. I got too much pride to do that.
Backing it in. Getting sideways can be a real blast, but it's not just a way to have fun. Learning proper sliding technique is the way to make cornering your ATV both safer and easier. When it comes to corners, it's important to understand the differences in handling between 2, 3, and 4-wheelers. For instance, you might think that big wheelers react more like motorcycles while turning, but you'll probably have to manhandle a BW just to make it slide. And body position is even more critical on a 3-wheeler. You have to shift your weight to the inside of the corner. A lot of riders find 4-wheelers easier to corner, but you still have to lean into the turn. Corners call for power slides or braking slides. With a power slide, you have to stay on the gas and muscle the bars to control the pitch. On a 3-wheeler, get off the seat and shift your weight well to the inside to keep the rear wheels down. And if you start to high side, roll off the throttle before things get out of hand. Once you've chosen a line, pour on the power and feather the clutch if the engine starts to bog. With any kind of slide, don't try to change direction or come off the gas suddenly. You could stall, high side, or even overshoot your mark. And big wheelers have a mind of their own when it comes to turning. You have to use your whole body to help you make the corner. At this speed, it might be better to downshift than to clutch it to maintain your momentum. And remember, only on a 2-wheeler can you extend your leg for balance. In a tight turn, body position is even more critical for both 3 and 4-wheelers. 3-wheelers should weight the outside peg while still leaning hard to the inside, because if you don't shift your weight, the bike will spit you off. The same goes for a 4-wheeler, especially in a rut-infested uphill corner like this one. To brake slide, first clutch it and downshift to avoid stalling. Give it some throttle and use the rear brake to slow you down, then pop the clutch and gas it. Four-wheelers often have a tendency to spin out. Use the clutch and front brake to maintain control. BWs and three-wheelers can use the front brake on approach, but they should only use the rear brake when turning. Front braking cuts into your momentum and inhibits your sliding power. You could wash out, nosedive, or even stall. As you know, races can be won or lost in the corner. When you're in the lead, you can shut the door on your opponent by sliding right into his line. Or, in this case, the leader takes the inside going in, then blocks the faster outside line. This forces the other rider to spin out when he tries to avoid a collision. So whether you're on a 2-, 3-, or 4-wheeler, concentrate on clutch and throttle control with a power slide and good body position with a braking slide. And if you can, try practicing on sand. Mastering these techniques will help you get sideways only when you want to get sideways. For MotoWorld, this is Joe Columbaro with Dirt Wheels Magazine, Rider Tip of the Month.
Good fun weekend because, you know, everybody's here, and there's some people here that are here to race. Other people are here just to have a, spectate and have a good time. And it's a good chance to see all the good riders, and it's not a national, but yet there's still something about it, And I just tell people, you got to come and try it once, at least.
For the 12th annual Blackwater 100, close to 500 riders were on hand. They were started in rows of 5 seconds apart, and stayed that way for at least, maybe 300 yards where the first Blackwater obstacle was encountered.
Right off the bat, they hit you with a river, so the first river sort of gets you wet, and then just from there you keep getting even wetter, and the bikes get heavier, the bogs get deeper. So it ain't nothing really to look forward to.
This year's Blackwater was the driest ever. The dreaded peat bogs were a virtual highway.
But I think the biggest thing out there is you got a lot of bogs, and you got places to where it can just actually suck your motorcycle up. And if you don't use your head and pick a good line, then you're going to get stuck out there for a long time.
The favored watching spot is the Route 93 river crossing. It's a chance for spectators to join in the fun without paying an entry fee.
Lots of people come here. A lot of people have fun, and for a dirt bike race, this is one of the few that really has a good spectator crowd. There was a band last night. Just party atmosphere. It's like a rock concert,
After 5 20-mile laps and 3 1/2 hours later, Team Husqvarna's Mark Hyde took the checkered flag. It was Hyde's third Blackwater win. With his father looking on, this one was special.
I tell you, I don't know. I think it's better this time than the first. And this is for you, Dad, Father's Day.
The first Blackwater race for ATVs was in 1983. There was a grand total of 11 entries. At this year's event, the entries had swelled to almost 300. Like the cycles, the first ATV obstacle was the mandatory bath 300 yards from the start. To an off-road rider, the sudden appearance of spectators spells trouble. The bigger the crowd, the bigger the trouble. On Route 93, there was an awful big crowd. Of the 300 starters, 69 of them completed the 3-lap race. Ahead of them all was Suzuki quad rider Jeff Bernard from McHenry, Maryland. For the second year in a row, Bernard was king of the ATVs at the toughest, nastiest, gnarliest hare scrambles race in the United States, the Blackwater 100. While Jeff Bernard was wallowing in the Blackwater mud, other ATV enthusiasts were finding happiness at Porterville, California, and Boyd, Texas. Those were the sites of the most recent rounds of the AATVA Grand National Series. Ari Landrum reports.
Round 2 of the AATVA Series took place under the lights, and it was the first TT race of the series in pro quad competition. John Neary in blue and Steve Wright in white battled throughout the main event. At the end, it was Suzuki-mounted Neary that took the win, his first of the '86 season. In 3-wheel pro competition, it was all Team Honda's Marty Hart. The defending national champion took the early lead and never looked back. Like Neary, it was Marty Hart's first win of the season. From California, the series traveled east to Texas. Winning the pro classes and taking home the lion's share of the pro purse was Gary Denton on a 4-wheeler and Steve Mendenhall in the 3-wheel class. Between AATVA races, most of the top quad riders stopped off at the LA Coliseum for the final round of the Suzuki Springtime Quad Racer Series. The best in the East, Mike Holbert in orange pants from Pennsylvania, and the best in the West, Gary Denton, number 3 from California, went head-to-head. In the early going, Holbert snared the lead and appeared headed for the win. Back east, they called him the Quad God, and he was showing the California fans why. Denton, meanwhile, was working his way to the front of the pack. The California did not get a good start, but on the track, he was making up for it. Then Holbert gave Denton the break he needed. The Quad God had endoed on a set of doubles, and for all practical purposes was out of the race. With a clear track ahead, Denton romped home the winner. Reporting for MotorWorld, this is Ari Landry.
The United States gathered in Long Beach, California for the American Speedway Final, the first step down the path to the World Championship. This is the single most important race in America that determines which 5 riders will carry this country's hopes overseas to the championships held this year in Katowice, Poland in August. Most of the USA's best live and race in California or England, where Speedway is most popular, and it's a rare treat to see this kind of talent in one race. Stars like Lance King, Kelly Moran, Sam Ermolenko, Bobby Schwartz, and injured Sean Moran.
I broke my ankle 2 weeks ago, and if I don't make it through this round, it would have been for nothing.
I got to go out there and win the thing, I reckon. You know, I can't be, you can't slack off and say, oh, I'll take a second or I'll take a third. You know, you got to go win every race you can.
Out of 16, we've got probably 7 to 10 guys that are capable of taking those 5 spots. So through this round, the next rounds are easy as pie. So this is definitely a difficult round for us.
Well, this one's important because if you don't get through, it's all over.
John Cook, last year's winner here, looked good winning his first race, but luck wasn't on his side, crashing in event 7, and then after mechanical problems, crashing again in this heart-stopping turn 1 incident. Tough break cookie. Mike Faria scored highly until a dead battery box robbed him of a victory, taking any chance of California regulars going through. Lance King went on to win that one, and with riding like this, King proved he's back, taking 2nd overall. Little Kelly Moran transferred as well with this must-pass situation over Faria, and Bobby Schwartz captured 4th with a consistent night of 3 firsts and 2 seconds. Sam Ermolenko, also with 3 firsts, showed why he's the talk of the Speedway world, taking 3rd. But the class act of the night was Sean Moran. Riding with a broken ankle, Sean won 4 of his 5 races and captured the hearts of the overflow crowd with inspired riding like this, winning the American Speedway Final in his quest to be the 3rd world champion from the United States.
Speedway is always a case of gaining, and on the night, and I like to really stipulate that it's usually on the night, I just happen to get it together, and I'm pretty happy with the title. I haven't won in a long time, but I had a chance to come here and qualify, and paid off even better than I expected.
Reporting in California for MotorWorld, this is Mark.
The 3rd meeting of the AMA's Camel Pro Road Racing Series. First to take the green on the 3-mile Brainerd course was the Formula 1 class. Number 6, Team Honda's Wayne Rainey led number 96, Randy Renfro, in the early going. The 2 riders had fans on their feet with a classic battle. Well, most of them anyway. At the 1/3 mark, Rainey's gearbox let him down and opened the door for Renfro to take a long overdue first ever Formula 1 national win. Despite his winning credentials, Renfro remains one of road racing's biggest kept secrets. In the Superbike race, Rainey started with 2 big advantages. First, Suzuki's Kevin Schwantz broke his collarbone and could not compete. Second, defending Superbike champ Fred Merkel had to start at the back of the grid due to a DNF in his heat race. The result was a runaway win for the talented California rider. Merkel charged to a 2nd place finish from the back of the pack, but couldn't overcome his starting handicap. Next on the Camel Pro schedule was a visit to Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. At 4 miles in length, the Road America course is the longest and one of the fastest on the tour. The man who had the measure of the Road America track was Team Honda's Wayne Rainey. Number 6 Rainey led off the line in the Superbike race and was never challenged. His performance at Road America was demoralizing for his competitors. Engine man Rob Muzzy and chassis wrench Sparky Edmondson had number 6 flying. Honda teammate Fred Merkel was the only other rider who had a chance at beating Rainey, but could never close the gap and settled for 2nd. In the Formula 1 race, the familiar red, white, and blue number 6 was out front again and never headed. Rainey and his tuner, ex-racer Phil McDonald, had the Grand Prix RS 500 Honda running flawlessly. McDonald greeted Rainey on the pit road and congratulated him for scoring the first Superbike F1 double win since Freddie Spencer's double last year at Daytona. From Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, reporting for MotoWorld, this is Dennis. Pro Road Racing Series left the Midwest after Brainerd and Road America and headed east to Loudon, New Hampshire and Pocono, Pennsylvania. The first stop, the Loudon Classic, where riders were challenged by one of the oldest and most difficult tracks in America, BRYAR Motorsports Park. Setting up a bike at this twisty track is crucial. Evidence, the Formula One race. Wayne Rainey, number 6, led early, but faded due to a gamble in his race setup that did not pay off. Number 96, Randy Renfro, and number 99, Cork Ballington, battled each other for the win, with Renfro taking the close victory. In the Superbike race, it was all Wayne Rainey as he took his 3rd straight win in that class. Rainey led all 38 laps of the race and has established himself as the rider to beat for the rest of the year. Next up was the 2.5-mile Pocono Raceway, combining a high-speed tri-oval and a tight infield section. In the Formula One race, Rainey lost out by inches to Renfro after a tight battle the whole way. Renfro was ecstatic in the winner's circle. Rainey got his way in the Superbike race, however, with a flag-to-flag win, never putting a wheel out of place and taking Superbike win number 4 in a row. Rainey now leads the Camel Pro road racing standings with Fred Merkel and Randy Renfro right behind. Reporting for MotoWorld, the
Coliseum in 1972, and like good wine, it gets better every year. This year was certainly no exception. Fans arrived early to get autographs from Miss Suzuki or to have their pictures taken with Miss Coors. U.S. Suzuki was on hand to display the latest in motorcycle technology. And in the paddock area, riders mingled with fans. Fans that when the event got underway that evening numbered in excess of 50,000. What they saw was an aerial show that starred who else but Rick Magic Johnson. In his heat race, Johnson showed his fans who was number 1. He followed that with a spectacular finish line cross-up. There were several challengers for RJ's aerial crown. Some received 10s, while others got 0s. With the main event underway, Johnson found himself in 3rd behind a pair of Kawasaki's. Ron Lechine was the leader, followed by defending Supercross champion Jeff Ward. With a jump that almost brought rain, Johnson passed Ward and set his sights on his El Cajon neighbor. The enthusiastic crowd screamed for more, and Johnson gave it to them. Over the roughest part of the track, Johnson changed lines and blew by his former teammate. From that point, the race was history. The crowd waved at Johnson, and Johnson took the Super Bowl win. Second place in the Super Bowl went to the O-Show Johnny O'Mara, who was followed by Ward. Supercross accident, but has not left the hearts and minds of American motocross fans. The LA Coliseum fans donated over $12,000 to help Danny's growing medical bills. Fans are not the only ones coming to Magoo's aid. Former world champion Brad Lackey recently organized a star-studded benefit race that was an autograph collector's fantasy. Former world champions Roger DeCoster and Andre Malherbe were only a few of the big-name riders on hand.
It's like a class reunion. These guys haven't seen each other in 10 years or so they're all having a good time getting back together, and I think after the event it's going to be a pretty good party.
Well, I think it's going to be really good. We got a lot of people here, a lot of help. It's just great that everybody's showing, all the respect and care that they, it feels really good that everybody's here.
For the record, Billy Grossi won the event, but that was unimportant when compared to the cause.
I think the cause for Danny Chandler is about number 1 in any of the riders' eyes. I think we should do a benefit race every year for, in advance for riders that do get hurt and have a lot of doctor bills and have a lot of problems like that. And I'd say I encourage everybody out there that watches MotoWorld to send in a donation, and I think Larry will give you the address.
You bet, Bob. To help Magoo, send your donation to Danny Chandler Fund, Civic Bank of Commerce, 700 Ignacio Valley Road, Walnut Creek, California, 94596. National in the fall of 1985, Ricky Graham was named Mr. Springfield Mile. He promptly went out and took his 5th Springfield win in 7 races. Graham's Honda teammate, Bubba Schobert, number 67, learned a tough lesson in that race after taking the lead on the final lap and ending up an eventual 3rd.
Well, I just, after I took the lead, I knew I had to get through those corners the best I could without making a mistake and try to get far enough ahead that they couldn't pass me on the back straightaway. And then I felt I could beat them off turn 4 to the finish line. But as it was, they both slipped past me at the end of the straightaway, and I couldn't make it up.
Graham's victory was the highlight of his injury-plagued 1985 season. This year, after 2 years as a Honda factory star, Graham is once again a member of the privateer ranks, while Schobert remains Honda factory back. The two rivals locked horns again in this Springfield Mile event, with Graham, number 3, giving number 1 Schobert another lesson on why he owns the Springfield Mile. 7 riders were in a lead-swapping confrontation throughout the last half of the 25-lap main event, but only one would come up the winner. Schobert charged to the front of the pack as they entered turn 3 on the final lap and held the lead as the field came off turn 4 to begin the drag race to the checkered flag. Then Graham reached into his bag of Springfield goodies and pulled out a draft and pass move, which saw him come up with his 6th victory. Schobert was inches behind in second, while Chris Carr finished third.
2 laps from the end, I thought, well, I better start getting serious, think about where I'm at the start-finish line. And the bottom line is just to not let off, just keep going for it the whole way.
Graham and Schobert also got close at Louisville, but only off the starting line. The battle in the 20-lap main event was between Harley-Davidson teammates Scott Parker, number 11, and number 20, Chris Carr. Carr, the 1985 Camel Pro Series Rookie of the Year, ran the first half of the race in the lead before teammate Parker took over with a slick pass heading into corner number 1. Carr's final challenge in the dash to the checkered flag almost caught Parker off guard as Parker began celebrating his win a little bit early. Parker had half a bike length lead to spare at the finish line. For the Flint, Michigan native, it was career national win number 11. It brought him within 6 points of series point leader Bubba Schobert, who finished third. Next up for the Camel Pro Stars was another mile, the Battle of Bourbon Street, New Orleans, Louisiana. Steve Moorhead, number 42, emerged from the dust at the end of lap 1 to lead the 17-rider field. Trying to see where they were going was the biggest problem faced by the riders. Sand from the track, mixed with water that was applied to keep the dust down, turned into a cement-like mud. Getting close to a spinning rear wheel was instant loss of vision. Tear-offs lasted 3 or 4 laps at the most. Despite the poor vision, Graham, number 3, came from out of the pack to catch and challenge Moorhead. At the midway point, Graham took the lead and held it. Moorhead, although he dropped off the pace, finished second. Scott Parker on the number 11 machine rolled into third early in the final half of the 25-lap main event and held off the challenges of Randy Goss, number 6, for third. For Ricky Graham, it was career mile win number 15, and that makes him the winningest mile racer in Camel Pro history. Parker's third-place finish earned him enough points to leave New Orleans with a tie for the Camel Pro Series points lead with Bubba Schobert, who finished 8th.
The 1984 Camel Pro National Dirt Track Championship. 2 riders had a chance at the title in the prestigious number 1 plate. The riders were not only rivals, but teammates as well. Also, the Team Honda stars were a contrast in both riding styles and personalities. Californian Ricky Graham, a former number 1 plate holder, was known for his outspoken demeanor and aggressive riding, while his teammate and championship rival, Bubba Schobert, was a quiet Texan that let his riding do the talking. 25 laps would decide the championship. After a whole season and 32 races, the championship would boil down to less than a half an hour of riding. With 2 laps to go, both Graham and Schobert were in the midst of a 4-rider battle for the lead. The action was literally handlebar to handlebar. Then, apparent disaster as Graham hooked the handlebars with one of the other riders and went down hard. The battle continued for the lead as Graham, in pain with a broken arm, rejoined the fray. With Graham only a handful of points ahead of Schobert in the series standings, the crash all but handed the title to Schobert. Number 67 Schobert lost the race by inches, but was certain he had won the championship. Riders, fans, and most of all, Graham and Schobert waited anxiously as the race results and championship points were tabulated. Graham had finished the race, but the question was, in what position? Then the announcement. Graham had finished 13th. His year-end point total was enough to garner him the title by a scant 1 point over his teammate Schobert. Graham had lost the battle, but he had won the Camel Pro War. The number 1 plate went to a hurting but a happy Ricky Graham. This is Dave Bowman. Join me next month on MotoWorld for another Fram Autolite Flashback.
From the heated action of mile dirt track racing, we turn our attention to quarter-mile drag racing and the 3rd round of the IDBA series. The biggest upset of the weekend came in the first round of Pro Stock eliminations, where newcomer Todd Moore of Clearwater, Florida, defeated multi-time title holder Terry Vance of Santa Fe Springs, California. Moore advanced to the final 4 in the 16-bike field before being eliminated. Steve Miles of Louisville, Kentucky, and Dave Schultz of Fort Myers, Florida, squared off in the all-Kawasaki Pro Stock final. Schultz, in the far lane, took the win. The funny bike final saw Kawasaki rider Bobby Baker of Camden, South Carolina, and Charles Israel from Americus, Georgia, on the line. Suzuki-mounted Israel, in the near lane, had waited for Baker and his crew to complete engine repairs so the two could give the fans a show. To Israel's dismay, Baker blistered the quarter mile for the victory.
Moto World is brought to you by Coors, the beer with a difference worth tasting. Coors is the one. Honda motorcycles and ATVs. Honda, follow the leader. Ford and your local Ford dealer who invites you to test drive the 1986 Ford trucks. Ford is America's truck, built Ford tough. Fram Autolite, the makers of Fram oil filters and Autolite spark plugs. And by Castrol, motor oil engineered for today's smaller, higher revving engines.
Laguna Seca was significant for 2 reasons. First and foremost, the racing. The annual return of American Grand Prix stars were headlined by Yamaha's world champion, Eddie Lawson, the current leader in world championship standings. Also, 3-time world champ King Kenny Roberts brought along his 2-rider team consisting of defending Laguna Seca champion Randy Mamola and Mike Baldwin, the 5-time American Formula One champion. But besides the stars on hand, the 1986 Nissan 200 brought news of great interest to American road racing fans.
The Camel Pro motorcycle race has been turned into such a huge success by Scramp, the people who operate Laguna Seca Raceway. And as a consequence, when Bernie Ecclestone, who might, for a quick description, you might talk of as the Pete Rozelle of automobile racing, international automobile racing, was thinking of getting a venue on the West Coast for another Formula One automobile race in the United States. He became interested in Laguna Seca Raceway.
Interest to one Bernie Ecclestone carries with it a lot of political weight. And if Laguna Seca does in fact secure a Formula One World Championship car race, then a motorcycle road racing Grand Prix should not be far behind. With the possibility of a future Grand Prix in the back of everybody's mind, the racing got underway and proved once again that 60,000 spectators can't be wrong. Laguna Seca is road racing at its finest. In Superbike competition, Team Honda's Wayne Rainey had won 4 straight races coming into Laguna Seca. Rainey's Honda teammate and defending Superbike champ Fred Merkel held a slight lead over Rainey in the standings. Flying Fred did not help his championship cause by crashing in his heat race. Merkel was forced to start at the back of the grid when the green flag fell for the 32-lap final. As in the previous 4 races, it was all Wayne Rainey from start to finish. The former Superbike champ took a record 5th straight Superbike win and, more importantly, the lead in the Superbike standings. Merkel, meanwhile, had worked his way up to 3rd in a few laps and was battling with number 34, Suzuki's Kevin Schwantz. Schwantz's bike said no mas after 10 laps, however, relegating Mr. Schwantz to a pedestrian, and an angry one at that. Second place in the Superbike race went to number 67 Grand National champ Bubba Schobert. Moving from Texas to California has done marvelous things to Bubba's road racing, and he put in his best pavement performance to date. It was a 1-2-3 Laguna Seca sweep for Team Honda, with Wayne Rainey the dominant winner. The highlight of the weekend was the Formula One confrontation. But unfortunately, this horrific crash in the first of 2 legs involving Eddie Lawson robbed fans of watching the World Championship points leader in action the entire race distance. A slow-motion replay shows Lawson forced way out onto the marbles by a back marker. The tires lose adhesion at the edge of the track, and Lawson is into the dirt where he tries to slow the bike down. Lawson holds on as the machine high-sides him over the handlebars, and both rider and bike endo into the hay bales. Lawson escaped serious injury. With Lawson out of the picture, the battle for the second leg and the overall win would be waged between the Team Roberts stable. Number 8, Randy Mamola, the first leg winner, and number 1, Mike Baldwin, the runner-up in the first leg. Under the watchful eye of this country's most famous motorcycle racer, the two riders put on a show for Laguna Seca fans and traded the lead in and out of slower traffic. It was learned afterwards that both Mamola and Baldwin were told to take it easy in the beginning. But Baldwin, number 1, who had won at every American track except Laguna, went for the win from the start. In the end, he edged Mamola for the win in the second leg and the overall prize, first place in the prestigious Nissan 200. Third overall went to number 99, Cork Ballington. The four-time world champion garnered a 5th and a 3rd to put him in the winner's circle. Reporting for MotorWorld from Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California, this is
the Supercross crown and the 250 national title. At Buchanan, Michigan, the opening round of the 500 National Series, Johnson had a birthday. The question was, would old age affect Rick Johnson?
Yeah, age is definitely coming into play. I'm 22 years old now. I got to be mature and ride a little, I guess, act mature. It's going to be tough, but I don't feel any older, so we'll see how it goes in the 500s.
How it went in the first 500 race of the year was not how Johnson planned it. When the dust settled from the start of Moto number 1, it was Team Yamaha's Danny Storbeck from San Antonio, Texas with a hole shot, followed by Honda riders Johnny O'Mara and David Bailey. Behind them came Kawasaki's Ron Lechien and then Rick Johnson. A few laps later, O'Mara, number 3, had the lead with teammate David Bailey in tow. The two front runners pulled away and held on for first and second in the moto. Third place went to number 4, Team Kawasaki's Jeff Ward from Mission Viejo, California. Rick Johnson, number 5, suffered his worst finish of the 1986 season. The El Cajon native finished 4th. The second moto turned into a birthday party for Johnson with a surprise present from Honda teammates Bailey and O'Mara. Johnson blew out the candles by quickly moving to the number 1 position. Behind him, O'Mara in 3rd needed only to hold that position for the overall win. But in midair, O'Mara and second place Bailey collided and cut the cake. Bailey got the frosting by quickly getting up to get back in the race. With O'Mara out of contention, the overall win would now go to Bailey, if he could hold second. But no such luck. As Johnson took the checkered flag to the tune of Happy Birthday, Bailey was being passed by Ron Lechien. The overall win and the birthday present went to Johnson. In 125 action, Honda's Mickey Diamond increased his championship points lead despite a pit stop in Moto number 1 for a fresh set of goggles. Clear vision meant clear sailing as Diamond went on to take the moto win. In the second moto, Diamond finished second. Good enough for first overall. From Michigan, the series moved to Axton, Virginia, the home of David Bailey. There would be no birthday presents at the Lake Sugar Tree track.
I just think that Rick's luck has come to an end. I mean, it can't just keep going. I feel like I can win this championship. I'm going to win. I'm going to do anything I've got to do so that Rick doesn't win it.
Anything amounted to a pair of moto wins in Bailey's backyard. The former open class national champion took the whole shot in both motos and made no mistakes. Finishing second in both motos was Rick Johnson. In the second moto, Johnson camped on Bailey's rear wheel for the entire 30 minutes, but was not able to pass. In the 125 class, the overall win was in doubt right down to the wire. The first moto was won by number 25, Guy Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Cooper took the lead early in the race and held it to the wire. Number 43, series points leader Mickey Diamond from Yorba Linda, California, finished second. In the second moto, Cooper found himself at the back of the pack with Diamond again running second and in line for the overall win. Diamond, though, pulled off the track with severe back pains, leaving the door open for number 20, Rick Ryan, who moved into second. Then, with just a few laps remaining, Ryan failed to come around. A blown engine gave the overall win to second moto winner, Team Suzuki's George Holland.
I have a good chance at it. I had a good bike. I was in shape, and this year was kind of up in the air. I'm back, and I feel pretty good. My bike works excellent. If I work as well as the bike does, I think we've got a good chance to win it this year, and it'd be a great way to top off a career.
The Unadilla 250 Grand Prix figured to be a shootout between sentimental favorite Team Suzuki's Bob Hanna and 1985 winner Johnny O'Mara of Team Honda. The top European contender was Frenchman Jackie Vimont of Team Yamaha. Vimont had already wrapped up the 250 World Championship by winning 7 of the 10 Grand Prix held prior to Unadilla. American riders, though, had dominated Unadilla in recent years. There was no reason to think this year would be an exception. On hand to watch was the normal, huge Unadilla crowd. They came for action, and they weren't disappointed. In the first moto, they saw O'Mara, number 20, grab an early lead and run away from the rest of the field. With that settled, their attention was turned to Hanna, number 22, who was working his way through the pack. With the fans behind him, Hanna easily moved to the number 2 position as O'Mara romped home the winner of Moto number 1. The crowd sensed the upcoming battle. Hanna needed a good start to challenge O'Mara, and he got it. With O'Mara in the lead and Hanna in 4th, the battle was on. The Hurricane made the right moves and within 1 lap was challenging O'Mara for the lead. The 2 riders disappeared from view with 3 bike lengths between them. When they reappeared, it was Hanna flashing the number 1 sign with the lead. But that was just the beginning. From second place, O'Mara followed Hanna and studied his lines. On several occasions, he pulled to Hanna's rear wheel. When he was ready, he made the pass. As O'Mara steadily pulled away, it appeared that Hanna would once again be denied the Unadilla win. Then, on the last lap, Hanna was paid back for all of the bad luck that had hounded his Unadilla efforts for the past 10 years. O'Mara pulled to the side of the track out of gas. Hanna, still riding as hard as he could, passed O'Mara without even knowing it. The crowd was in an uproar as Hanna took the checkered flag, thinking he had finished second. It was not until he was mobbed by a legion of fans that Hanna realized he was the Unadilla champ. Hanna, though, knew what O'Mara was going through. He was not comfortable with the win.
And he wore me out, and I couldn't pick the right lines. You know, he outsmarted me. You know, he's great. And I've got to apologize to a few people, the spectators, for promising to win, and Suzuki for promising to win. I won, but not the way I like to do it.
In the winner's circle, O'Mara presented Hanna with an extra trophy, his empty Honda gas tank. On it was inscribed, "To Bob Hanna from Johnny O'Mara, Unadilla 1986. In the twilight of his career, Hanna recorded his first ever Grand Prix and Unadilla win.
Bob Hanna's hottest tire burners were Cincinnati, Ohio's Gary Falta and smoking Steve Tracy from Evansville, Indiana. The 2 staged, waited on the lights, and were off. Falta had handling problems, while Tracy on a Suzuki ran straight and true for the victory. Dave Schultz from Fort Myers, Florida, made it 2 IDBA Pro Stock Final wins in a row. His victim at Norwalk was fellow Florida rider Mike Keat of Fort Lauderdale. Keat was quickest off the starting line, and then Schultz hit the afterburners and left Keat in the dust. Jim McClure, number 1 in the Pro Comp class, recently updated the judge with a new chassis, but on this day, the verdict would go against him. Newport News, Virginia's McClure was caught red-handed on the start with his front wheel in the air. Jim Cooper of Norwalk, Connecticut, had all the evidence in his lane. Case closed. Reporting for MotorWorld, this is Erie Landrum.
The American All-Terrain Vehicle Association National Series trekked to Washington State for round 4 of the 8-race series. Highlighting the action were the 3- and 4-wheel pro classes. Marty Hart, the defending 250cc champion, led the 3-wheel final, but quickly endoed his way to the back of the pack. Hart quickly remounted and sliced through traffic in pursuit of the number 7 machine of leader Steve Mendenhall. Hart picked off Sean Finley with a slick pass for second late in the race, but it was too late as Mendenhall took the win. In the 4-wheel final, Suzuki's Gary Denton led from start to finish. Steve Wright challenged Denton early, got splattered with mud for his efforts, and had to stop for clean goggles. In the closing laps, Rodney Gentry challenged and then moved past Wright for second. Out in front, it was all Denton's ball game as he sailed to the checkered flag in high-flying style.
Nice track, pretty difficult, very technical, and pretty hard. So I think everything is fine.
When the gate dropped for Moto number 1, everything was indeed fine. If you were Rick Johnson and had just grabbed the hole shot. For others, though, things were not so fine.
It's really hard and bumpy, so I like more the sand track, so some soft tracks, but this one is really hard, and I don't like that.
The reigning 500cc world champion was even more vocal than Van der Ven.
I personally don't particularly like riding here. For me, I find it difficult to get traction, and I don't particularly like the heat. So for us, it's just a one-off. We don't come across conditions like this very often.
Number 2, former world champion Andre Malherbe was the top European at Carlsbad, finishing 4th overall. Number 12, Kawasaki's Jeff Ward finished 3rd overall with moto finishes of 2nd and 3rd. 2nd overall went to number 26, Team Honda's David Bailey with a 3rd and a 2nd. Rick Johnson, number 25, won both motos in convincing fashion to win the 14th and final Carlsbad Grand Prix.
For Unadilla Grand Prix was a classic confrontation between a pair of veterans, Bob Hurricane Hanna, number 33, and Mark the Bomber Barnett, number 31. And a young charging lion, Ron Lachine, number 34. The veterans had amassed over 100 national wins and 10 championships. Lachine had yet to win a championship. He was touted, however, as the best young rider in the world. Throughout the first moto, the battle raged with position changes on almost every lap. At the checkered flag, it was Barnett, followed by Lachine and Hanna. It was a narrow victory that set the stage for the second moto. With the adrenaline flowing, Mark Barnett quickly took the lead and began pulling away. Behind him, Lachine and Hanna were left fighting for second. But then, Barnett failed to come around. A mechanical problem was the culprit, and the bomber was out of contention. Hanna, riding with a sore wrist, was unable to maintain the pace. The second moto and the overall win went to a charging lion, Ron Lachine. This is Dave Bowman. Join us next month for another Fram Autolite Flashback.
We are currently under construction on the Emory campus building the first pediatric brain tumor research center in the United States. And that's a significant statement, and it's a tremendous feat because it's a $1.5 million project of which we're literally started construction on faith. And we got a long way to go, and the motorcycle is going a great way to helping us raise that money.
Once on the interstate, the Riders' Parade for Charity stretched for miles. Within an hour, the first riders reached the famed Atlanta road racing track. Most participants relaxed at a hospitality tent with music, refreshments, and plenty of bench racing. Atlanta television personality John Beckman, a longtime motorcyclist, has seen the participation and proceeds grow from the start.
We went from collecting a couple of $1,000s the first year to collecting close to $40,000 this year. It gives motorcyclists a good feeling to be able to use their motorcycles to do something good, and it gives me a good feeling to be associated with people like that.
If you would like to contribute, here's the address. Brain Tumor Foundation for Children, 751 DeKalb Industrial Way, Decatur, Georgia, 30033. Still to come on Moto World, a look at a new way to have fun on motorcycles. We guarantee you'll have a ball. Moto World's Dennis Torres goes back to school. Superbike School to learn how the fast guys do it for West Virginia's first ever AMA National Championship Camel Pro race. Camel Pro champion Bubba Schobert came to the banked half-mile oval with a revised strategy for the rest of the season.
When I wasn't dirt tracking, instead of just taking the time off and really concentrating on the dirt, I was out playing on the road racer and trying to learn that game. So now things are getting tough and getting tight as far as the points go on the dirt tracking. So I've chose to pass up the next 2 road races and concentrate strictly on the dirt and hopefully wrap up the championship.
Schobert, number 1, led from the start and held the lead to the finish.
I knew I had to get a good start, and I was worried after getting second in my heat race because that could have put me on the back row, and I knew it'd be a long way from there.
Runner-up Chris Carr tried his best, but on this hot night, he was no match for Schobert.
Thought I had a real good shot at winning there for a while, but Bubba was real consistent, and he just left me. That's all there is to it.
Carr on the left, and third-place finisher Rodney Ferris sandwiched winner Schobert in the victory celebration. Imagine this. The year is 1990. The event is the final match of the Camel Pro Moto Ball Series. Thousands of fans, despite freezing rain, are on hand to watch Team Honda battle Team Suzuki. Kenny Roberts takes control early, then passes to Bubba Schobert. Schobert tries a shot on goal but misses. In stunned silence, the crowd can't believe it. A penalty is called, and the ball is placed by referee Bill Amy. Taking the shot will be Rick Magic Johnson. It's a right-footed kick and a save by goalie Jay Springsteen. Now it's late in the game, and Bob Hanna controls the ball. He's rammed by Keith Bowen. The ball is picked up by David Bailey and passed to Ricky Graham. Graham kicks, and he scores! What it really is moto ball. Where it really was in Russia at Ted Turner's Goodwill Games, and thousands of fans really did brave the weather to watch. Moto ball is really quite simple. All you need are a couple of goals, a sturdy beach ball, a few bikes complete with riders, and a supermarket parking lot. It looks like a lot of fun. Motoball gets my vote for inclusion in the 1988 Olympics.
10 nations traded their uniforms for full leathers. Instead of chasing speeders, they chased each other at California's Willow Springs Raceway. Qualifying races on identical machinery cut the 50-rider entry to 20 for the 12-lap Race of Nations final.
We were lucky that Kawasaki New Zealand supplied us with a similar bike in New Zealand to practice on, but the tracks are just so different. These are much larger, faster, and it's just so much safer.
Although racing was the #1 priority, socializing was not far behind.
We have had so much fun here the past couple of days. The camaraderie, even with the language barrier. When we had the riders meeting, we had 3 or 4 translators working in 3 or 4 different languages.
The most fun, though, was had by #9, Arizona Highway Patrolman Rick Williams. Williams took command in the final laps and held off the challenge of #5 Frenchman Mark Graney for the win. Reporting for Motorworld, this is Ari Landrum.
That is, the home of koala bears and top hair scrambler Jeff Ballard. Ballard's the one without the goggles. Ballard's Can-Am teammate, Jeff Smith, who just happens to have been the 1964 and 65 500cc motocross world champion, thought the heat was unbearable and worked hard to avoid it while watching the efforts of others. There had been no rain for weeks in North Carolina. Add to that temperatures of 100 degrees plus, and what you get is dust. And when there's dust, there is only one place to be at the head of the pack, and that's where Australian Ballard was. Ballard's dust-free ride on the first 10-mile lap allowed him to open a big lead.
The start was definitely an advantage. You know, one of the biggest advantages, it probably gave me a clear lap to look and see exactly what the track looked like.
Some riders, though, enjoyed the dust. When one of them stopped to play in it, he was joined by several others. Dusting the competition was the rider's job. Washing the dust off was the pit crew's job. The pit crew of Fred Host took the best-looking award, hands down. Come to think of it, what was Fred doing racing anyway? Finally, after 2.5 hours in the dust and heat, Ballard was given the checkered flag.
Yeah, the dust was bad, no doubt about it. In certain sections, it was a lot easier to catch and pass guys, and in other sections, you were basically blind. You didn't know where you were going.
Mark Hyde knew where he was going. The Husqvarna rider from Columbus, Ohio, finished 2nd overall. And what about Jeff Smith? How did his race go?
The last time I rode in this type of temperature and this type of dust was in Russia in 1968, oddly enough. But there was no ice around then. Obviously, we got ice and we got air conditioners. It was a lot more miserable in Russia.
Husqvarna rider Fritz Cadillac from Colorado Springs, Colorado, was 3rd overall. Cadillac also had a hard time.
And it was so dusty, a fellow fell in front of me. I didn't see him. I went right into him. So then I dropped back to about 10th place, and I ended up working my way up all day.
Which obstacle gives you the most trouble? And 10 to 1, he'll tell you, jumps.
Definitely off cambers.
Both jumps and off cambers.
Yes, these obstacles can be tough, but we'll show you how to handle them.
A lot of new riders avoid jumps because they can be kind of tricky. But once you get the hang of it, you'll never go back to the flat. Whether you're racing on a track or riding on a trail, you'll need good body position and throttle control to make the jump. With any kind of ATV, you should approach the takeoff ramp in a neutral position, wheels straight, weight centered. When you reach the lip of the jump, flip the throttle to help you get airborne. But in midair, stay off the gas unless your front end starts to drop. It's better to have the back wheels slightly lower than the front, both in the air and on landing. Remember, if you jump crooked, you'll land crooked. Correct your position in the air by tilting to the opposite side. And landing, that's the critical part of every jump. Big wheelers, be prepared for turbulence. These babies bounce. 3-wheelers, make sure that both rear tires hit at the same time. If not, you'll endo or high side. Watch how you land on 4-wheelers. Their weight is more central, but you can still flip.
Once you've touched down, gas it right away to minimize rebound. If there's a berm turn next, you can stay on the throttle. But if it's a tight turn, just brake slide it around the curb. Jumping tabletops is different. Get back on approach, then lean forward as you clear the ramp. Try to land level with the downward slope. Blind jumps like this can be dangerous because you can't see what's on the other side. If you blitz over the top, you might not be able to handle what's waiting on the downslope. Off-cambers are another kind of obstacle that always give a rider the willies. Again, body position and throttle control are key. However, even more than with jumps, off-camber technique is very different depending on the kind of ATV. Big wheel riders should lean into the hill, holding the bike out and away from the slope. Your rear tire can lose traction and slip downhill, so don't gas it suddenly or go too slow either. Keep a steady speed and extend your leg for balance. With three-wheelers, body English is everything. Don't be afraid to shift to the inside as far as you can. Weight both the rear wheel and the foot peg. Too much gas or not enough leaning and your tires will slip. Regain control by turning the front wheel slightly uphill. Quads have the fourth wheel advantage that keeps the bike more in line with the slant. Although the weight bias is central, you still have to shift your body sideways to keep you tracking straight. And too much throttle can get four-wheelers spinning donuts too. So whether you're in the air or on the ground, be sure to use body position and throttle control if you want to stay on
grounds. These are everyday motorcycle riders learning the do's and don'ts of high-speed riding at the California Superbike School. Giving last-minute instructions is Keith Code, the founder of the school, known as the guru of road racing. Code has authored 2 Bibles of motorcycle road racing and has put over 10,000 riders through his Superbike schools. I recently had an opportunity to go through one of Code's classes during the Nissan 200 weekend at Laguna Seca Raceway. The day starts like most schools do, in the classroom. Chalk talks last about an hour and a half, and then it's class dismissed. Recess time at over 100 miles an hour. Don't worry about equipment, they've got it all. Leathers, boots, helmets, and gloves to fit every size from A to Z. After a quick lesson in flag identification, it's time to mount your bikes and attack the Laguna course. I think Keith anticipated my skill level when he assigned me my bike number. Once out on the track, you get shown the proper line, and then you have 2 10-lap sessions to go for it. Laguna is known for its treacherous corkscrew turn. How did the students like it?
That's a hell of a drop, and seeing it from the sidelines is nothing like being on it and having to look down the throat of that thing, and I can definitely see where people would have problems with it, but it's really a lot of fun when you finally get the hang of it, too.
It may look easy when you watch road racing, but it's not, although we all start out on equal terms. The biggest difference between the Eddie Lawsons of the world and the beginner is...
It's commitment to this sport. It's commitment to their excellence. It's attention to detail in the riding. It's really having that plan, really having a solid idea of what they're going to do, going out there and really keeping their attention on it and delivering what they had set out to do. That's the biggest difference.
After 2 10-lap sessions, you come to appreciate the talents of guys like Wayne Rainey and Randy Mamola even more. Or do you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a wonderful track. Very scary in a couple of places. And to think of the speeds these guys run out there, they're incredible.
No, we are not showing you a slow-motion replay. That's yours truly trying to make like King Kenny Roberts. Which brings up the question, can a Superbike school graduate go out and dice with Fast Freddy and company?
No, couldn't compete on a professional level. He's not up to that skill level yet. Amateur racing is the next stage on from the Superbike school, and we are a licensing agency for several of the big clubs around the United States. The riders can come out here, do the Superbike school session, and I'll let them know whether they're competent or whether they're going to be happy spending that money to go out and do that racing.
Whether you have aspirations to race or you just want to go out and have a good time and fantasize a little, I recommend the California Superbike School. But don't take my word for it.
It was great. It was an awful lot of fun. It was a little frustrating that there wasn't more time. Things happened very quickly, but it's an opportunity to do some things on a motorcycle that you can't do anyplace else.
From Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California, this is Fast, Steady, King Dennis Torres.
Tonight, then a carnival ride and motorcycle racing. Race number 1, right off the bat, saw number 9, Flying Mike Faria, win his first in what was to be a string of victories.
And while some flew through the night air outside, Sam Ermolenko flew back from England to race and showed why many say he will be world champion someday. Faria and Ermolenko both scored victories in race after race, defeating all comers, setting up a showdown in Event 17 where they would both finally face off in the same race. And as many rode mechanical monsters outside, the riders mounted jackasses inside for the Donkey Derby, an annual event at Costa Mesa, winning his 4th race after 2 restarts. Then, Event 17, the showdown. Faria and Ermolenko. Faria gains the advantage and goes on to win his 5th race, scoring a perfect 15 points, the maximum, beating Ermolenko. The zipper separated the men from the boys outside, and the main event inside saw only 4 remain of the 20-rider field. And as the tapes flew, Fly and Mike Faria stole the show, winning again an unprecedented 6 races, 6 first-place finishes. Then, after the checkers, Ermolenko hits the wall hard, goes home with a headache, eventually okay.
At the fair in California, Mark Leckel reporting.